And now we'll enter this very exciting and eventually puzzling topic of causal AI. Why puzzling? Because you have predictive AI, predictive machine learning, for example, where the goal is prediction. And it's completely different than causal inference. And the logic is really very different because, for example, in predictive AI or predictive machine learning, you focus on the quality of the prediction, and metrics like R-square or other metrics are very important to estimate the quality of your model. Also, p-values or the intensity of the relationship, the correlation, the association might be also criteria to include in a model or not. But actually not in causal inference. Usually these are not the key criteria, and it can actually be completely backfire if these are the criteria you use to build your model. So now many people are puzzled because they are used to to machine learning, and there are many people who are using it, and they make this heroic step or jump where they have a strong predictor. They think it's a cause or necessary cause. Well, it's not necessarily, and actually often it's actually the opposite. It's usually consequences that are great predictors. But long story short, that's now something new emerged, causal AI, which is an interesting combination of the two fields, where you can basically sprinkle a little bit of machine learning to help with technical problems in causal inference, and that's what we are going to talk about. That's at least my take, and probably Philipp will explain in his word what is it and give deeper examples. So now we have the chance to have Professor Philipp Bach, who is Assistant Professor of Econometrics at the Freie Universität in Berlin, and also Head of Training of Economic AI. So I really invite you to check what is economic AI. You also train companies, industry, provide training to use causal inference. And in particular, if I'm not mistaken, you're part of this team of DoubleML team. So DoubleML is a package for R and Python to apply Causal ML, in particular DoubleML methods, which is a package that I use really often. You have a fantastic website to explain and to allow people to use the tools. So without spending more time, I could talk a lot about this, and it's with great pleasure that we welcome you, Philipp, for the next talk, Demystifying Causal ML from DoubleML Basics to Current Topics.
Thanks for staying with us, because I think we make some kind of progress and we get deeper into causal inference topics. So after hearing about causal discovery, we can move on talking about causal machine learning. So basically, I tried to get you introduced to causal machine learning, what it is, what is the idea underlying one specific approach, which is double machine learning. And as Quentin already said, I'm part of the team who is maintaining this library. So we have many people contributing, and yes, let's start. Okay, so basically, what is causal machine learning at all? Basically, it's a way to use machine learning, which is known to work very well for prediction, as you know, because you see it everywhere right now, right? But not for predictive tasks, but instead for causal inference tasks. So basically, it's something about causal estimation. So you have a quantity, as in all the examples you heard before, something like the effect of a campaign in marketing, yeah, on the sales. So this is a quantity you would like to know. You don't know it, you don't see it, but instead you only have to estimate it. So causal machine learning is a way to get a very good estimate on this, because you are kind of flexible and adaptive to data in some sense. Just to motivate it, to have a little bit of distinction to other fields of causal of machine learning, like here it's an example from customer retention or churn. So basically, if you think about it as a predictive model or predictive problem, you would try to train a machine that's as accurate as possible to predict for customer I whether the person is going to churn in the next time, like next 30 days or so, or not. Yeah. Or you may ask which of your customers are likely to churn. Yeah, so there's just like something where you see from based from the past, your customer data, you can train a model and just like get predictions that are close to the true values for these observations. You can then move on, because actually when you want to prevent churn, you want to take an action. Yeah, and then maybe some people ask, like, why, like the customer service asks, like, why should I call this person? Yeah, and then it's a question about interpreting this machine learning model. So this is explainable or interpretable AI. When you try to understand which kind of features, which characteristics of customer made me call him, yeah, or her. So how does the machine learning method work? And which features are kind of predictive, strong predictor for the label of being prone to churn or not? Yeah, but this is very different from the causal question, because the explainable question refers to this tool that you're using to make prediction. But causal questions basically refer to something that's called a population. Yeah? So it's a basic causal relationship that exists in the sense of people or of your customers. Yeah. So you really wonder, like, why is a person churning? Is it because the service was bad? Is it because the costs were too high for the service, or whatever it was? Yeah. So you immediately recognize causal questions by asking for things you can do, like actions. Yeah. What can I do to make the person change her mind? What can I do to prevent churn? So you can also dig deeper and ask for heterogeneity, something like, are there specific customer segments that are more likely to churn than others? What can I do in order to prevent these kind of people? Because this might be something that you can interpret and make business decisions. As a bird view image, yeah, like we are basically talking about machine learning. We're talking about estimating causal quantities. And also we heard the word confidence intervals, p-values. So where these kind of fields meet, you kind of find double machine learning as one device of causal machine learning. So there are different approaches to causal machine learning. So this is like not exclusive. I'm just telling you about double machine learning because this is what I do. And because there are also some machine learning approaches that are trained to make, or that made to make good causal estimates, but they don't come with inferential techniques. Yeah. So why is double machine learning a little bit different? Because double machine learning comes with a lot of insights, which means that not only give you a specific causal estimate, but also gives you the confidence intervals, the p-values and stuff. And what's also nice about causal machine learning is that it's not only working in one specific type of causal model, but the ideas that translate to many different situations, which you also already encountered today. Someone, I think, someone talked already about difference and differences and about other approaches like regression discontinuity, where you could also use double machine learning. So basically a statistical framework for estimation and inference on causal parameters. So this is a technical term. And the nice thing is that it's also working with a lot of different machine learning methods. So its generality is also kind of a good argument for double machine learning. Well, this is basically to give you an idea what double actually does. But now the question is like, how does it work? And for this, we kind of came up with a little bit like, if you're a mathematician, you shouldn't look at this formula. But it's just like as an intuitive explanation. I think double machine learning combines three different aspects. Yeah. And the one term that's, I think, outstanding is orthogonality. This is a very technical term. I'm trying to motivate it in just a second. And the other two parts are sample splitting, which is also common practice in machine learning model evaluation, and also good machine learning method, which is a technical requirement. And actually the reason why you would like to use machine learning for estimation or for prediction inside these kind of causal models, because they work so well, or are supposed to work well. So let's have a look at orthogonality, what it means. Basically, double machine learning does not fall from heaven as a gift that you just receive, but instead you would have to adjust the overall framework, how you use the machine learning. Yeah. So the idea is that basically you use machine learning for estimation of some parts of the model, which are called nuisance parts. And this is a place where the machine learning can go inside your causal inference model. Yeah. Why is that necessary? Because machine learning does some kind of regularization, which might introduce some kind of bias of your causal estimates. Yeah, so you have to kind of clean out your estimates for this kind of regularization. And one trick how to get there is orthogonality. And there's one very important, like one very famous example how you could get this. Yeah. So assume we have some kind of intervention D. Yeah. And some kind of outcome Y. Just think of this as maybe a person doing phone calls on customers that are likely to churn or something like this. Yes. And Y is the outcome, whether you observe the person to churn or not. And you may have also some covariates that you have to account for. Yeah. Like a very simple approach would just train a machine learning model and just can generate predictions. Then you can play around with different ways to do this. Yeah. You can set the value of D equal to 1 for all persons and D equal to 0 for all persons, and then just take the average difference. And this might be something like causal estimate. Yeah. I don't talk too much about this because this is basically not very much valid. Why? Because everything that you get as an estimate for this causal effect is subject to the technical bias that's occurring for machine learning. Yeah, it's as in Lasso estimation when you have penalization, that's just introducing bias towards zero, something like this. Yeah, and this is a very general problem. So Viktor Sherzukov and other co-authors came up with this very general idea to double machine learning is to use this kind of orthogonalization. And here is the basic idea where you just take a little detour. Yeah. So this is called partialing out. Yeah. So you basically do a machine learning model to predict the treatment D, yeah, whether someone received the phone call or not. Yeah. Based on covariates, past interactions, I don't know, tenure, whatever he had, you have in data. You just build a machine learning to predict D. You also set up a machine learning model to predict the outcome based on the axes. So what you basically don't have in these kind of models is the effect of D on Y. Yeah? And this is what you capture in the final estimation step. So you construct residuals, which means like the difference between predicted values and the actual values, and then do residual regression on that. And this basically looks like a miracle, but it gives you a good estimate in the sense that in the statistical limit, it's going to be close to the true value on that stuff. You also get a lot of nice statistical guarantees that you might use for confidence intervals. Yeah, this is one idea that you can use with residualization, because this is basically doing something like orthogonalization inside this model. But the idea is that they also translate to way more complicated models than just like such a simple model. Yes, so basically now you know about causal machine learning. Can go away and convince your boss to only use double machine learning for all your problems. Well, that's not only it. Yeah, as Paul said, I think no causes in, no causes out. You could also say no assumptions in, no causal results out. Yeah, so basically estimation is only one part of the causal problem, and causal machine learning mostly focuses on estimation devices, such as double machine learning or other approaches. So first, you need to go to this identification step, which means you basically have to establish a causal relationship between the treatment variable and the outcome variable. Yes. Otherwise, causal machine learning is just a good way to get very precise estimate of a biased thing, of a wrong thing. Yeah. So you have to take care of the identification sample first. So in the churn example, for example, you have to make sure that you don't have any kind of selection into the treatment. If you have something like an intervention, like I call people who are not happy, try to convince them to continue their contract over the next period, well, this is a selection, because actually you're approaching people that are most likely to churn, which might at the end underestimate, lead to an underestimation of the effect of this measure. Yeah. Okay, so this is something that you should do. So these were more or less the basics, just as an introduction. Now I come to more like advanced topics. The more advanced topics, they take the same perspective, asking about identification, not upfront, but ex post. So basically you do some kind of causal analysis. You establish some kind of estimation, identification approach, something like you account for all the covariates that affect the treatment and the outcome variable, which might otherwise bias the results. But you don't know whether you are right or wrong in this. So you have basically just to believe in the plausibility of your things. And now there are like new approaches to sensitivity analysis that are also very general and applicable to a variety of models in double machine learning or causal machine learning that you may also want to use. So basically what you can use today, so the tools are just out there, is to basically have an effect estimate. Then you have to report it to someone, to business, and they ask you, well, how much do you trust this number? Yeah, and then it's usually better to just have an idea about the robustness of that result, whether they really trust in the causal interpretation. And for this, sensitivity analysis is a good thing to do, because it basically helps you to stretch your model and to construct scenarios that might break down your results sometimes. Okay. Other advanced topics, some that you probably heard about, is just like if you have heterogeneous customers or something like this who respond in a different way. This is something that you probably like to exploit to target campaigns or something like this. Yeah, so there are methods to also estimate these kind of heterogeneous or subgroup effects. There are also new approaches to use modern data, because of course digital platforms, digital marketplaces, they are not only tabular data, but they also have text and image data. So this is something you also might want to exploit in order to target, I don't know, marketing measures to optimize pricing or whatever you would like to do. And also there are very practical adjustments and diagnostics that are still being explored that might help you to be safe in terms of the estimation steps. Because, of course, you basically want to answer a causal question with a huge battery of statistical tools, and all these algorithms have their knobs and tweaks that you could use. So you should better just open the box and look inside and see what's going on there, if you may run into some kind of issues. For example, what is common if you have propensity score modeling, that you get kind of overconfident or underconfident learners, which might basically deteriorate your final causal estimates. Yes, so that's it. As Quentin said, here's just an advertisement block, because this week, actually, we are still having open slots for our training on Thursday and Friday, offline, like in person in Hamburg, but also online. And you may also want to check out our library and the documentation if you want to learn more, because we have a lot of materials. So there's not yet a book, I guess. Just refer to Paul. Yes, thank you very much. If you have questions, I'm happy to take them. And thanks again to everybody to contribute here.
Thank you very much, Philipp, for this very exciting. Oh, sorry, my mic was too far. Thank you very much, Philipp, for this exciting topic, and I'm sure there are many questions. As for a book, there is actually a wonderful book by Victor Chernozukov et al. So one of the creator of DoubleML, which is DoubleMLbook.com, something like this. Let me just figure this out and put it in the chat.
I think it's Causal ML book.
Exactly. Thank you. Causal ML. Thank you very much. Beautiful book. I really highly recommend all of you to read at least the introduction, and then you'll get so thrilled that you'll want to continue. But long story short, there are many interesting questions. I think some of them will allow you to re-explain maybe the broad idea, because one of the questions is, does DoubleML is the same as definitive? And the second one, so I answered in the questions, but I'll let you also give your take. And the second related is, DoubleML always use linear regression to predict the relation between D and Y or not? And if yes, why?
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. Both easy question because you can answer no. No, just kidding. Yes, it's a good question, because I think it takes some time to understand what actually double machining does, because in the introductory example, it's the easiest way to explain it by this residuals and residuals approach. But the fundamental idea underlying it is way more general than just in this setting. So you can see it as some kind of an estimation device that adapts to a specific causal model. So difference might have a different structure. It has a specific characterization, which is a method of moment estimation, statistically speaking. So this is something where you can, at the end, you find a certain representation, which you can then feed into machine learning estimation. Okay. So the specific shape, how that looks, is very much dependent on the problem that you consider, which kind of estimate you consider, which kind of causal model you consider, and which kind of assumption you want to do to make in addition. Yes. So it's just like the motivating general idea, and the details are always, like in the terms of conditions, or what you could say.